Stand on the podium. It's really tall. Stand on the... Oh, there we go. No, jokes. Just make a movie. Oh. Oh, right, okay. I got the memo about the colours, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, there you go. My wife's here as well.
These just fell out of my cupboard this morning onto my legs.
Okay. No, my wife's over there with Marika.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Yeah. And I asked her,
So, Chaz, look, let's have a sensible conversation, not in front of a mic.
Oh. Don't want to do Gordon Brown. I'm not going to change their mind. I actually
No. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Can you count?
No. I've never been able to count. It's a miracle. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
Gosh. How lovely to see you.
To see you is lovely. Lovely to see you too.
Yeah, let's do a quick hello. Should we do a quick bigger than that? Hello. Should we do a quick bigger than that? Hooray! Before I do anything or say anything, I am very quickly going to do some housekeeping. And by that, I do not mean the housekeeping that involves me in a mop and a bucket. I don't like doing that. First of all, we have, if you would like to get onto the Argyle Wi-Fi, it is Home Park Guest, and the password is Home Park. All right? That is with a capital H and a capital P. Okay? Has everyone got that? Shall I say it again? Argyle Wi-Fi, Home Park Guest, and the password is Home Park. Another tiny bit of housekeeping. There are loos. All right? And we're going to let you have a break to go and use the loos. However, don't feel obliged to stick to that. If you need to investigate the loos beforehand, please feel free, especially everyone over there on that table who's giggling. The other thing is that you will have noticed that we have a word cloud up on all of the screens. What we would like to do is to put together a word cloud by the end of the day that reflects our thoughts on the situation in Ukraine. We are Plymouth International Women's Day 2020. As ever, Plymouth is ahead of itself, so we're holding this conference a day early. So what we say and think and feel and put out today is ahead of everybody else, and we would love you to go to www.menti.com and use the code 33194570 to put that together. So, hello and welcome to International Women's Day 2022. It's been a while, and it's lovely to see you. It was 2 years ago that we last saw each other, and indeed, what a 2 years. It's hard to reflect on all those changes, but here we are, and we are together now. And in the main, we're here to highlight the IWD campaign theme for 2022, which is Break the Bias. We're here to imagine a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. And together, we can forge women's equality. Together, we can break the bias. But first, we cannot ignore the human tragedy unfolding before us, before our very eyes in Europe. Women and children bear the brunt of war, and this is no different. Fleeing, leaving their loved ones, losing their loved ones, picking up guns and joining the fight. In crisis, women rise. We have seen this from the heroic viral video showing one woman challenging a Russian soldier on the streets of her hometown, and to the pictures of flight to foreign lands and an unknown future. We also know that Ukraine's military overhaul since 2014 means that women now make up 15% of their armed forces. However helpless we may feel, we can help the women of Ukraine and show up in some small way in international sisterhood. In a few minutes, we will have a first-hand account of life in Kyiv. But first, this.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round.
Папа будет продавать что-то, будет помогать нашим героям, нашим войскам будет помогать, может даже будет воевать. Мы шли где-то 3 часа, и вот вы нас спасли. Я думала, что мы уже будем идти эти 2-3 дня. Я думала, что мы будем идти целый день. Вот оказалось, что вы нас выручили.
Well, in any war, human suffering and upheaval is inevitable. The UN says more than 500,000 people have fled Ukraine since the invasion began last week. Many are travelling to Poland, which borders the west of the country. Our special correspondent Fergal Keane reports from the Ukrainian city of Lviv, close to the Polish border, on the growing refugee crisis there.
To the edge of desperation and beyond. In a bewildering crisis, the women and the children of Ukraine fleeing their country.
Bring it to his feet.
Yes, my husband and from another side waiting for us. I don't know. Between us, it's 27 kilometers. And you're gonna walk? Yes, I want home.
What's the point of staying there essentially? Because things might escalated essentially, and then you gotta make a decision. And because we've got family, we've got kids, as you can see, and it's the best place to. It's the best thing to do. I mean, especially now, because you never know what's gonna happen.
Уезжаем мы из Одесской области, потому что, как видите, дети сзади. Страшно. У нас война, и как мать, я боюсь за своего ребенка, и пока есть возможность выехать, мы пытаемся выехать в сторону Молдавии.
Už je to lepšie. Bolo to na začiatku chaotické, ale teraz sa to tak už postupne ukludnilo. Veľmi veľa ľudí má odvoz zabezpečený, aj vie, kam smeruje, a takých 10% asi nemá ani zabezpečený vlastne ani ubytovanie, ani dovoz. Takže to základné sa im snažíme poskytnúť.
As Russians enter Ukraine, women are leaving.
Her husband left behind to defend their homeland.
They want to stay there to fight because they're heroes.
And I'd like to say a very special thank you to Andrew Day, who allowed us to use that song for free for this conference. I'd like now to introduce my friend, Sarah Brown, who is a teacher and has been living in Kiev for the last 8 years. She's kindly agreed to come here today to talk to us and to help us to understand what life is like now and what it's been like there.
Sorry, I'm just going to set my timer. I thought I'd got it set, but it's now not working. Don't want to go over my time. My name is Sarah Brown. I'm originally from Paignton. I trained as a teacher and moved up to Bristol and worked there for about 7 years before deciding to go and work in international schools abroad. That is schools where we teach in English, we're not teaching English. So we have children from all over the world and from the local country as well. And 8 years ago, I went to live in Kyiv, and it was just before Maidan. I arrived in August 2013, and 6 months later, we had the whole Crimea secession and Maidan and the overturn of Yanukovych. So, you know, for the last 8 years, we've lived with that. We've lived with what's happening on the eastern border. My friends had brothers, husbands, sons who went out to Donetsk and have been fighting against the Russian-backed separatists. But in Kyiv, it was a long way away on the whole. Yes, you had your memorials and things, but on the whole, it was a long way away. And right up until 2 weeks ago, most of my expat friends left because the embassies were telling them they needed to leave. But the Ukrainians were, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. We've lived with this before. They've threatened this before. It's never happened. And even on the 23rd of February, a friend of mine posted the pictures of her son's birthday. And then I woke up on the 24th to the dreadful news that we all woke up to. And I just wanted to say, Kyiv is it's just a city like any other city, to be honest. It's beautiful. It does have all those fantastic, beautiful buildings. It has the most amazing parks, including a lot of forest parks, even in the city. It's one of the greenest cities in Europe. I know it better than I know Exeter, where I'm living now. I know where the shops are. I know where the best place to get certain foods is, or which is a good cafe. And I still find it really hard to imagine what's happening there and what's going on in those streets, especially as every time the television is showing views, they're talking from the one of the balconies from the Hyatt Hotel, and it's overlooking St. Michael's, and behind to the side of it is St. Sophia's, and I live just behind St. Sophia's, and every day I walked across that square twice to get down to the metro. And go to work. And last, 2 weeks ago, that's what people were doing. They were going to work. They were going to the gym. They were going shopping. And now they're hiding in basements or fleeing with their children and leaving their husbands and brothers behind. I have had a lot of friends cross the border this weekend into Poland and Hungary. I have been trying to help the little I can do, which is put them in touch with friends I have in Europe and who are messaging me and saying, my mum's got a flat in Budapest, or, we are organising stuff in Poland and Romania. So I've been trying to help in that way. Very close friends of mine spent 30 hours crossing the border on Saturday and Sunday. A big group from my school crossed yesterday morning. They'd been hiding in the school, actually. The school's been fantastic, and they were allowing, they actually did think ahead and stocked up just in case. So they had generators, satellite phones, food, water, etc. And they have been living in the school basement for 2 weeks, but they made that decision that they would leave and head to the border, and they crossed yesterday. But unfortunately, there are still people there, mainly their brothers, husbands, sons, fathers, and they're fighting. And this morning I heard that Slava and Victor, two really gentle souls that worked in our school, one in IT, one as a learning support assistant, are both fighting in Kyiv today. And I can't imagine it. But the women and the children have had to cross. They've had to move to the west. But some of them, like Lexi said, some of them have stayed and they are helping. Anushka is helping by buying food and things for her family and for her friends, for the old people that aren't leaving their apartments, that can't move. She goes out and she lines up in the few hours they have in pharmacies and shops to get them food and medical equipment. I spoke to a friend the other day, and I said that I'd been asked to talk here. And I said, would you like to say something? And she is living in a village just outside Kyiv at the moment. I worked with her in the school. And she can't get out of the village because they've blown up all the bridges. And this is what she wants to say to you today. Nastya.
Hello, my name is Nastya. I'm Ukrainian and I'm proud that I'm Ukrainian. Right now I'm near Kyiv. I'm 24th of February was the scariest day in my life. I woke up that morning because my husband ran into the room and he was yelling, the war started. I remember about the day that I was sitting in the basement barefooted and my daughter was next to me and calming me down. She was telling me, Mom, everything is fine. Everything will be okay. I remember how I couldn't breathe. I felt like my lungs were on fire. On the next day, we tried to go out from our village, but the road and the bridge exploded, so we are stuck in our village. I think that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Good thing because Russians not gonna come here. Bad thing that we can't go out from our village. We're stuck. I think on the third day, rockets were flying near us and Ukrainian military shot it down. Pieces from that rocket fell down in my yard, on the roof of the house, on my car. I remember how we went out and my husband said, everything is okay. We're gonna fix it. Yeah. I'm afraid to fall asleep. When I'm closing my eyes, I see fire, I see people who are dying. I'm afraid that when I'm gonna fall asleep, I'm not gonna be able to wake up in the morning. I want to hug my mom. I want to see my mom. I want to just wake up in the morning. I hate to wake up in the morning. I want to wake up in the morning and go to the school bus and to school and work like it was before. Right now I have only one prayer. Please stop this horror. Please stop this war.
Just 2 weeks ago, life for the women and children of Ukraine was completely normal. 1.5 million refugees have left Ukraine in the past week. It is the largest crisis that has hit Europe since the Second World War. We all want to know how we can help. In the past few days, I've been in touch with the Embassy of Ukraine to the UK and the Association of Ukrainian Women in Great Britain. This is their recommendation. If you would like to help, this is the site that they recommend you go to. We will put this up again during the conference, but if you'd like to take a picture of this slide right now and keep it on your phones and look at it and use it later, then please do. I'd like to profoundly thank Sarah Brown for coming to see us at very short notice today and for sharing her story and the story of her friends who are still there. So as you will have noticed, we responded swiftly and as we should to unfolding events that were affecting men and women throughout the world. We did change the top of this conference. We changed the top of this conference very swiftly and at last minute. I'm enormously grateful to our speakers today who've been so understanding of that. And I'd like to give a very, very warm welcome, and I hope that you will join me in giving a very, very warm welcome to our first speaker, Dr. Lorna, who is in a very difficult situation, I think, of taking the first spot after all of that to talk to us about women in STEM. Lorna, thank you very, very much indeed.
Good morning, everyone, and let me just say thank you to Sarah and to the people that shared their stories. I think it underlines, once again, what an immense privilege we all have to be able to be in this room and to have this experience and share our experiences with people in safety. And I think that is really important to just take a minute to reflect on that and to be grateful for that. And I am, for one, honoured to be here today and to follow that. Thank you. So, I am here today to talk to you as a representative of women in STEM or STEAM, which is women in science, technology, engineering, arts, maths and medicine. If you can remember all of that, you're doing better than me. And I'm imagining that there are many women in STEAM and STEM in this room and joining us online as well. We represent a significant portion of the people in the Southwest and in the UK and in the world. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my my experiences of being a woman in STEAM. But mostly what I'm going to do today is talk to you about my biases and how those biases have affected my career in STEAM, because I think that sits really well with the theme of this year's International Women's Day, which is breaking that bias. And hopefully, if I tell you a little bit about my biases, that can help all of us recognise the biases that are all around us, and that hopefully we can then go some way towards breaking those biases. I'm hoping that I've got a slide. Excellent. So the thing about recognising your own biases is that it can be really hard. So I think it's really important to remember that those biases are everywhere. We are not dealing with this on our own. We are in this all together because everybody has bias. It is part of being a human being. To use an example that is relevant for International Women's Day, everybody, and I include myself and everybody in this room in this statement, and pretty much everybody in the world, everybody is sexist. And what that means is that we behave differently towards people and we think differently towards people based on that person's gender. even if we're trying not to. And I know I've been working in gender equality for about 7 years now, but I still do things that are influenced by people's gender. And sometimes that's absolutely fine, and sometimes it can be harmful, and it's that bias that we need to break down. Now, I'm not here to say that everybody is sexist because I want to make people feel bad, because it's something that we all do. So I don't want anyone to go away feeling guilty about any of this. You know, I know that despite my work in gender equality, I might still say something like, oh, well, women are better at men at doing X, Y, Z, reading maps or whatever it is. Or, oh, men, you know, they always do X, Y, Z. But by reducing people to their gender, by reducing men to their gender in that way, in that example, you enable all of us to be reduced to our gender as well. And that's why it's really important that we all come together to break our bias. So I don't want you to feel guilty. What I want you to do is take that knowledge that everyone is sexist and do something with it, because it's what you do with that information that is the most important thing. And that's why this year's theme for IWD is Break the Bias. So they want a world free of bias, stereotypes and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable and inclusive, and a world where difference is valued and celebrated, which sounds great. But it is hard. It's really hard to do that. And that's why I'm going to share my story of how my biases have influenced me, because hopefully that will allow us to come together to collectively break the bias. So, my bias was I can't work there. So I have, my first career was in science. I trained as a marine biologist and I spent 10 years playing around with sharks and then writing research papers about it, which was something I'd always wanted to do since I was a child. But actually, that job didn't make me happy. And what I wanted to do when I did my PhD, I realised that I wanted to work in nuclear physics and in radiation safety, and that was what really interested me, because at the end of the day, I'm a great big nerd. And so that's what I wanted to work with. And I knew that there was a place in Plymouth, the dockyard, run by Babcock, where that sort of work happened. But I said to myself, you can't do that, you can't work there, because you're not an engineer. And I said that, I didn't realise it at the time, but part of the reason that I said that was because I had a mental image in my head of what an engineer is that probably is the similar image that you all have of what an engineer is, subconsciously tucked away there, and it's the one that little children draw when we tell them, which is usually a kind of large man in overalls wielding a spanner or a hammer or something like that. That's what engineer conjures up if you're relaxing. It's the first thing that comes into your brain. And it was the same for me. And I thought, I'm never going to be that man in overalls with a spanner, so I can't be an engineer. And so I did nothing about it, even though that was my dream job. Until one day, I went on a networking event, similar to this one, but it was in the dockyard. So we got to go on a submarine, we got to go on a ship, I got to speak to lots of people, and it was absolutely fabulous. I had a fantastic day, and everyone was really warm and encouraging and helpful. And that helped to break down my second bias, which was the idea that behind that dockyard wall, not only was I not an engineer, so I couldn't work there, but also it was an unfriendly and harsh place that wouldn't support me. And I think sometimes we look at that big wall with the barbed wire at the top, and we think, I don't even want to go in there. That doesn't look like a helpful place. So I had that bias as well. But it broke down that bias, and I started talking to someone at the end of the day when I had tea. It was just like this. We had a cup of tea and we were just sat talking, and I happened to say, oh, I'd love to work here, but I can't because I'm not an engineer. And the woman that I was speaking to changed my life in a single sentence. She shattered my bias, and she literally changed my life. And she said, we take people with all different backgrounds and we'll train you. That's all she said. Probably doesn't even realise it happened. But that absolutely changed my life because it shattered both of those biases in a minute. So, as it turns out, my reality is very different from my bias. I do not like this photo. It was taken in bright sunlight. I'm squinting into the camera. But There is a submarine in the background, and I figure that submarines are much cooler than I am. So if you could all look at the submarine and not me, that would be great. But my reality is very different from that bias that I had. Within 6 months of that fateful conversation, I had a job in the dockyard as a graduate safety engineer. Since then, in the last 6 years, I've become a safety engineer, and now I'm a senior safety engineer with a big team of people. And I absolutely love my job. And every day I'm reminded, and I have to remind myself sometimes because that bias is still in there, but I'm reminded that I am an engineer. And every day when I speak to people in the yard, I remember how supportive they are and how many systems we have in place to really bring our people up and to make them the best they can possibly be. And those biases that I had are gone. The engineering one sometimes still niggles at me. But they're gone, and I'm chipping away at them just because the reality is so different from what those biases actually were. In 2018, I was named one of the top 50 women in engineering in the UK. Thank you. I often don't tell people that because I sometimes still think that I'm not a proper engineer because I'm not that man in overalls. And I still have that bias. I'm still working at it. And it sits there, even though I'm confronted with the opposite of that every day. And I keep the award on my desk where you can't see it, so that it's not behind me in the camera on Teams, but just to remind me, to help me break down that bias every day, because it is still there. But the reason I want to talk to you about this is because I think there are lots of other people out there that share exactly the same biases that I used to have. I think there are probably people in this room who think that there is something that they can't do because they don't look like the image they have in their head. So I'm saying to you, if that's you, try and break that bias. I also think there are people in this room and people everywhere, and I speak to them when we do STEM events, who also think that behind that big wall and that barbed wire is a hostile and unfriendly place. And actually, that couldn't be further from the truth. The dockyard is incredibly supportive, and like I said, we do a lot for our people. A really good example of that is the STEM Returners programme, which was on screen a second ago, which is something that is set up that Babcock is part of. It's a multi-award-winning programme. We are part of it, and a really active part of it, because what it enables us to do is take people who have come out of STEM for some reason. So they might have had a career break just because they weren't working for a while, or they might have had kids, or they might have gone travelling, or they might have just been doing something else, because you're allowed to work in non-STEM stuff. And it enables us to bring them into the business and give them the support they need to kind of catch up after that break. And it's a really good example of the sort of thing that we do to help people. And the idea that there is no support the other side of the wall is just not true. So I wanted to tell you about my experience with bias, with my own bias, to hopefully break down those bias and mean that we can work towards breaking them all together. So what I want you to take away from this talk is that we all have biases. Absolutely every single one of us has a bias. Those biases might be holding us back. They might be holding back other people, particularly, say, if we're a parent, for example, who says, oh, well, I don't want you to work there because it's dirty, or you won't get the support you need, or the education you need. Those are our biases. And sometimes our biases don't just hold us back or hold other people back. They do both at once, so they can be really harmful. So what I would like to challenge every single person in this room to do is make a commitment to do one of these things, or all of these things. But because I think what the most important thing we can do is look inside of ourselves and think, okay, what is my own bias, and how am I going to break that bias to make a more gender equal world? Thank you. And now I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, which is Veena Shivane from the City College, Plymouth.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Lorna. That was a nice speech from you. A few years ago, one afternoon, I was waiting to collect my son from school in the school grounds. And one of the moms asked me what he did for a living. And then I told her that I'm an engineer and I'm looking for jobs. I had taken a career break then and had started to apply for jobs then. She was surprised to hear that I'm an engineer. And she asked me if I went around to people's houses and fixed washing machines and boilers, things like that. And I was really surprised by her understanding of an engineer. Like Lorna said, like when you're asked to picture an engineer, mostly people imagine a man in overalls, hard hats, or a person with lots of tools trying to fix a device. And, you know, you never picture a woman doing that, do you? It's just a common thing that everybody does. So why do we have this reaction? As a matter of fact, only 13% of the engineers in the United Kingdom are women. The UK being one of the most developed nations in the world, why do we have such a low percentage of women who are engineers? Do we care that the majority of engineers are just men? Some of the biggest advances in our society are changing our lives. It's the things that we, use every day to make our lives better. With half the population of a country being female, we need to have a female perspective. I was born and brought up in India in a working class family, and I was encouraged to study well and secure a job. I was good at science and maths and was curious about how things worked. So I went on to study electrical and electronics engineering at Bangalore University. It's also called as the Silicon Valley of India. The electronics department had 3 young female lecturers. They were real good role models for me, and they inspired me to become a lecturer myself. Out of the 110 students in my class in the university, there were 49 girls. So I never felt any bias or any kind of gender imbalance when I was studying. We were asked to make and design things as a part of a project, and that's when I really understood the meaning of engineering. It is the ability to apply your knowledge to make, design, or create something that works. We felt really accomplished when when our little projects worked. Women take up to 43% of total graduates in STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in India. It's one of the highest in the world. Computer engineering is one of the most sought-after engineering career choices for female students in India. The best part of this course is there is no field work. The expansion in the IT sector and software revolution in India has also made the course very demanding. In the United Kingdom, according to STEMwomen.com 2021 statistics, overall percentage of female graduates in core STEM subjects is steadily growing. However, the split is just 26%. The figure is also translated to female STEM workforce, with women making up to 24%. This shows that some work needs to be done to encourage women to both study these subjects and transition into workforce. When I decided to start a teaching career and got a job at City College, Plymouth, little did I know that I would be the only female lecturer in the department. Not only there were just male lecturers, all the students were just male too. In the last 5 years I've worked there, I've seen just 1 or 2 girls in a class of 20 students every year. And I feel like it's my responsibility to keep these girls motivated and encouraged to stay on the course because they feel that they don't fit in a class full of boys. In the teenage years, when children are making their career choices, having peer pressure to do what everyone else does, it takes a lot of courage, confidence, and commitment for these girls to choose engineering and then to stay on it. We have seen a lot of anxiety issues in students of this age, and the recent pandemic has not been very kind to them either. We have seen a lot of increased anxiety cases, and students are lacking in social skills. Let alone students, I feel nervous being in a class, in a meeting full of men sitting around, and I've accepted the fact that it's okay, that it's all right, and I can help bring a change in the culture in the college. STEM contributes massively to innovation and growth, so it's important that women are well represented. It's not just a question of gender, it's to ensure equality, representation across all areas of diversity. Recruiting from a wider talent pool offers us better ideas, greater inventiveness, and more creative outcomes. If you are a woman with STEM skills or have an experience from the industry, why not try teaching? There is a national shortage of teachers in STEM. We need more women role models in engineering so that we can inspire young women and to take on this course or career. There is a bursary available for people who want to take on teaching in STEM, and work placements available in City College for you to try. City College Plymouth is taking a lot of effort in offering taster sessions for potential students, and we encourage students from secondary schools to come and have a go at this. There are a lot of advertisements in the media to join engineering. Partnerships with big companies like Babcock have been successful in getting apprenticeships and hence jobs in the city. We are starting T-levels this summer, which is an alternative to A-levels. This will include 40 days of work experience in an engineering firm locally. This will give young people a clear insight into working in engineering. So there's a lot of options for young people to try. Girls have been exceptional in their academic and practical performance in the college, and this has been recognized and rewarded. Cllr was awarded as the Student of the Year in Automotive Engineering. Amelia Bully was awarded Engineering and Manufacturing Student of the Year in 2021. There are big success stories from women in engineering throughout the UK. According to DiversityQ, the 100 influential women in UK engineering list showcases exceptional women role models from organizations such as BAE Systems, Dyson, Laying O'Rourke, and Network Rail. Recognition and support will enable women to take an important step forward and make a real difference in innovation and technology in the UK and beyond. According to the survey done by the organization Engineering and Technology, girls don't believe engineering is just for boys. In fact, perception is only increasing, with 94% of girls at school-leaving age, that is 16 to 19-year-olds, saying they agreed that engineering is for boys and girls. The perception of ability is not the question here, it's not the problem. It's a perception of engineering as a desirable career. This shows that more needs to be done in order to make the career path more attainable and aspirational for women. To a woman in engineering, as everything in life, you need to work hard, and so do the men. Being a woman has neither helped or hindered my career in this incredible field. What engineering needs to do is to raise its profile, make itself more appealing to the future generations. It needs to rebrand or reposition itself in the society. We need to educate teachers in schools about engineering. I don't think many teachers know enough about it to have a valid conversation about it as a career choice. Career opportunities and advice need to link up with science lessons. More practical approach needs to be added to the science curriculum for kids to try and get involved and get interested in the topics. Science teachers need to be suitably trained for these initiatives. On top of everything said before, the mindset of parents, public, need to change in order to bring change in the culture. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. I particularly enjoyed those. I could identify with those very much. I've got 3 nephews, all of whom are engineers. And actually, we've had feedback from one of them saying that it is quite strange how few women there are in engineering. So we must change that. So, yes, so a round of applause, please, for Dr. Lorna Dallas and Veena Shivane, City College Plymouth and Babcock. Thank you. Lovely to see you. So a wonderful philosophy there that Lorna outlined to us from somebody who absolutely changed her life, which is we will take people from all different backgrounds and we will train you. And that is a great leveller, particularly in sport. And this is something that Plymouth Argyle have obviously seen here. Plymouth Argyle have their own women's team who we met 2 years ago. For those of you who were here, we had a bit of a ball, and they are lovely and amazing. One of the really sad things, however, that I have to report today is that they don't get paid as much as the men. Still. And so one of the reasons why none of the women from Argyle's football team can be here today to talk to us is because all of them have got to be at work. Now, I just want you to have a little think about that and also bear in mind, when thinking about things that you can do to change this, that Plymouth Argyle women's team are always, always open to support and sponsorship, which is always going to be a way to change what's happening and to break that bias. However, having said that, it doesn't mean to say that we're not going to hear about Plymouth Argyle women's team, because Ryan, where is he? Stand up. Has been kind enough to agree to talk to us today, and brave enough to agree, I think, probably, Ryan, to come and talk to us today about them. So, Ryan, I'll hand the stage over to you, and thank you very much. A very warm welcome, please. No booing from our lot. All right.
Lovely, cheers, thank you. Again, firstly, I'd like to apologise that none of the players are here. I did have a little moan yesterday to them that they could have took a day off to come and support me, but they haven't. So they've chucked me in the deep end. So my name's Ryan Perks. I'm the manager of Plymouth Argyle Women's Football Club. I'll give you a little insight into where we are currently as a club and where we're looking to head in the future. So Plymouth Argyle Women, we play in the FA National League Southern Premier Division, which is Tier 3 in the women's football pyramid. That's only 2 divisions below the Women's Super League, so we're at quite a high level. Again, the players aren't paid. They don't get paid anything. They give up their time, which isn't right. It is changing in sport. I was appointed manager of the football club in August 2020. We've worked hard behind the scenes to make the club as professional as possible and give the players the same opportunity as the men's team. So I'll just give you a little insight into the structure of the football club. All right. So I won't go through everyone's roles in the club, but my role, I'm paid by Argyle Community Trust as head of women and girls football. So my job is to promote and inspire girls to play football across the city. Obviously, it's heavily male orientated, as you can see. I will go into a bit of statistics. So obviously, from this slide, it's evident to all that there's still a massive gender gap within sport. Although this is improving all the time, there are still plenty of areas we continue to improve on. There are 1.5 million fewer women participating in sport than men at least once a month. Is this due to lack of opportunity, the stigma of women in sport, or the awareness of sessions around the city? We also see a clear gender gap when we look into the amount of female coaches working within the game, with only 18% of women making up the qualified coaches across the UK, hence why this is male-orientated at the minute. This is something at the club we are looking to change. We're supporting future coaches of the game by allowing them to work with us and start their coaching journey. We give them opportunities to participate in sport and also to make the female game as professional as possible. There has been a huge shift in support for the female game within the last few years, with more televised games on Sky Sports and BBC, more female football pundits, there's more put in the press and a lot more on social media. Hopefully this will continue to help the female game. I'll give you a little bit of background about our player pathway at the football club. So when I started my role, I've been working for Argyle Community Trust for about 5 years now. When I came in, there was only 36 girls playing regularly across the city. That has changed massively due to probably a bit more of sport growing around the female game. So we start at under 5, so we've got a Wildcat Centre. So our Wildcat Centre is just a turn up and play. It's just a first engagement into sport. So these girls just can come along free of charge. It's funded by the FA just to get an introduction to football. This then leads on to our PAFC LTPD. It has changed in the last few weeks. It's now called a player development pathway. And that's under 8s to under 14s. These are a little bit more structured sessions, give the girls an insight into what's needed to play the game. And then we have our PAFC, ADC, under 10s to under 16s. This is the equivalent of the boys' academy. So the girls train once a week at Manadon Sports Hub and they play regular fixtures across the country. We have just introduced for next season an under 9s because of the growth in the female game. We have this year introduced our under 18s team and an education team. So we have an in-house programme delivered at Home Park where the girls study a BTEC in sport. So they study 5 days a week, but they train 3 times a week and also play regular fixtures on a Wednesday. We have an under 23s team, which play in the Southern Premier Division. So they play more local. Again, this is an introduction into more adult sport. The reason we introduced the under 18s team was the gap from under 16s to then going into the female adult game was huge. Although I do have quite a few 16-year-olds playing in my first team. So, and then we do have the first team. So when I took over, there was quite a drastic change at the club, to be fair. So the old manager asked for quite a bit of backing to progress the women's team financially within terms of payment. They didn't really have a structure or a plan, so that didn't come to life, unfortunately. So he decided to move on. So did quite a few of the players. So I got thrown in the deep end and said, Ryan, can you come and steady the ship? And we've continued to grow and improve. Little bits we've added. So we've got an S&C coach now for the women's team. We've got sports science students at Marsden's University who come in and do our analysis on our data to make the game as professional as possible. I will go into some more changes in a moment. Our vision of the football club, so we want to be a respected and sustainable football club around the city and in the southwest. We want to have a clear player pathway to give the girls the opportunity to progress and make it into professional football and to provide opportunities for the local community to come and support the growth in the women's game in the southwest. I think the first two, we're in a 2 points there we're in a good place with. However, I think we need to try and promote the women's game a little bit more within the city so people can come along and support the players. So we play our home games. We have 3 home games here a year at Home Park, so we don't play every game here. But we play at Manadon Sports Hub, which is owned by the Community Trust. So again, if you could look out for fixtures, come along and support the team would be great. But yeah, that's something we're trying to work on to make the female game better supported across the city. Right, you'll be glad to know it's not going to be me talking for the whole 10 minutes. So Zoe, our club captain, has done a short video just to give an insight into her playing career and how the women's game has changed since she started. So Zoe's 28. She's originally from London, so she's been at Chelsea. She's played for Arsenal. She's moved down to Plymouth. She's played for Plymouth. She left 2 years ago, but I roped her back in to come and support the growth again. So she's come back to support us. But I'll shut up talking now, and I'll play the video so Zoe can have a talk.
I think definitely football-wise, football has always been perceived by many or most as a male sport. I've always found that if you can separate the two as two different sports, then you can enjoy women's football and you can appreciate women's football. It's hard to compare it to a male game because obviously they're bigger, stronger, quicker, all those things. And it is difficult if you look online at the things that get said about the women's game still. You know, some of it's quite awful actually. So it's just one of those things that's always been a big issue within not just our sport. I'm sure it's the same in all sports, but football definitely. I've experienced that throughout my career. Mostly financial, I'd say. The support, obviously we don't get hundreds of thousands of people come to watch our games. We don't get sponsors wanting to sponsor us because we don't get that amount of support. And I think throughout my career, even from when I was younger, the amount of money I've had to pay, or my parents had to pay, in order for me to be able to play football at a good level has always been a lot. And it's always, even now, I still basically pay to play in fuel costs. We have a sponsor, and they cover our sponsorship fees, but if we don't have that, then we have to pay that ourselves. And so the big thing is financially, but it's difficult if we're not making the money, then where is it going to come from? So. It's hard to say. In the last couple of years it's been difficult obviously with the situations, but personally from what I can see, you know, for women in sport has grown massively, definitely since I was younger. In the last couple of years, I mean, even at our club, the stuff that we have now is a lot better. The access we have, analysis, S&C, different kind of coaches doing different things with us, like it's definitely improving. So. Well, I guess you could look at the USA and what they've just achieved in getting a back pay for the women's international team, so that they're getting paid the same as the male team. That's something to look at, but then again, are they making the money to do that? Because you can't just magic money out of nowhere. So I don't really know. It's a difficult one. I think all the clubs in the women's game are trying to improve stuff, but you do see obviously the clubs that have more money are the ones, they like Manchester United, when they created their women's team, which wasn't that long ago, they created it and they were straight into top flight football, basically second tier, but knowing that they were going to win that league because they just had the men's side had the money to put in, you know. So I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think just a bit more backing. The community-wise, it would be good if people would just come and watch, come and support the girls. If you enjoy watching football, then you know, it's good to come and watch us play as well. That's basically what we need. We just need more support and backing in order to create, I guess, more of an income for us as a club, so that we can keep improving.
I'll just go over a few of the changes we've implemented since the last conference in 2020. Like Zoe alluded to, it has been slightly difficult because of the COVID situation, but a lot has changed off the field for the players. So they no longer have to pay to play. So the players used to have to pay £250 a season to play football at this football club, which is mad, really, when you just look at the facilities and the concept of the football club. However, the club's backed that massively now, so they've took on the ownership. They supply £10,000 worth of sponsorship towards the women's club now, so we don't have to pay to play. The club support travel on the first team coach, so everyone knows how far Plymouth is from anywhere else in the country. It is an absolute nightmare. I got back late last night from London myself, so yeah, it was a long trip, but at least we won, so it was worth it. So, but yeah, so we travel on the first team coach now, so the club support that. They pay for the cost of us travelling on the first team coach. We used to have to travel everywhere on a minibus. To be fair, I probably wouldn't have took the job if we had to carry on a minibus. So, we have financial support from Nuffield Health. So Nuffield provide our players with scans so we can get them assessed earlier and assess the rehab the players need. So we've had a player go in this week. Thank God she was all right. So the rehab on that's fine. So that's grown in supporting that. So we have closer working relationships within the PAFC commercial and hospitality team. So the commercial team at the club now support our sponsorship awareness and fundraising. So we've just been linked with iPro hydration, so all our drinks and hydration stuff is supplied now by the club. Hospitality team, I had a meeting last week, so we're now going to start doing events like this ourselves where we can generate some income to the women's team. So the dream is that we can start paying the players. They deserve it. They give up a lot of time and effort to play at a high level, and it's a shame that we can't currently support them financially, but that's somewhere we need to improve on. We have larger sponsorship packages, so again we've worked with the commercial team, so there is lots of opportunities. So at Madden Sports Hub there's sponsorship opportunities for sponsorship boards. We have player sponsors, match day sponsors, match ball sponsors, so there's lots of opportunities. And obviously after this conference, if anyone is interested, I will leave my email at the end so everyone can just get in touch. Continued sponsorship from Ginksters, so the men's teams, Ginksters, iTech and Bid Food sponsor the men's team. They also sponsor the women's team, so we don't get as much money as the men's team, but we do get some financial support from Ginksters, iTech and Bid Food. Food provided, so little gains, so we provide food for the players on away trips as well as at home games. So again, just to try and limit the cost, we've gone out and got a sponsorship who supplied food for both home and away games. Also, just a small thing is like having your name on the back of the shirt just makes the girls feel part of the football club. That's something we introduced this season. They've never had that before. It's a small cost, it's nothing, but it means a great deal to the players. We now train twice a week, whereas before they used to just do once a week. Again, unfortunately, this is a bit more hindrance on the players because they do work full-time jobs, they are students. However, if we want to keep progressing and improving as a team, we do need to train more. It would be lovely if we trained throughout the day and they were paid full-time professional like the men, but we're not at the minute. So, yeah. Again, like I've just alluded to, adding of hydration and nutrition sponsorship from iPro. We've also hired a club photographer and a media manager this season. So again, it's to try and grow the profile of the women's football club to generate that income and sponsorship. Oh, I think that's it from me. Yeah, but thank you for your time today. Appreciate being invited along. I'm sorry some of the players couldn't come. They were a little bit gutted that they weren't allowed to come, but like you say, we will hopefully get there in the end with players being paid to play football. But thanks for your time. Cheers.
Thank you very much indeed, Ryan. And yeah, as is the way of these things, it's always good to do a little recap. So more backing, these are the things we can do, basically. I'll put them down into a short list so we can all remember. More backing. Please turn up and watch. Sponsorship like Nuffield. Nuffield are at the back there, so if you want to talk to them about how, what kind of a benefit there is for sponsorship, I'm sure they'll be able to tell you. And also, obviously, join in. I mean, I'm going to sign up. I've got my football boots on today. You can see they're entirely appropriate. So I'll be doing that later. You don't believe me? Yeah. You haven't seen me kick a ball, have you? Yes, okay. These are perfect for it, I have to say. So we're going to take a short break now. So we're going to let you go and have a comfort break, go to the loo. I'll let you know that we have actually got a message that's come in this morning from one of Plymouth's sporting heroes, which is Sharon Davies. So hopefully we'll be able to share that with you when you all come back. So if you'd like to take just 20 minutes now, then we will crack on with the second half of our programme when you come back. I'll give you a shout when we need to do that. Thanks very much, everyone. You're going to give me a hug?